Hello everyone, this is a new opportunity to record a new video for you, and in this opportunity I'm going to record something about programming. So the last video, programming, that's nice, programming. The previous video was about algorithms. So in this part you need to open your mind because we are going to try to connect those presentations, the previous one with this one, because I know that there are many topics that I talk about in that part that maybe, no, I'm sure that you are going to find those concepts more clear in this video. Okay. So let's start talking about this. So declare and use of variables and constants. So this is too simple. So what is a variable? So remember that I always tell you that it's a space of memory that you used, okay, to give a value, okay, and that value can change during the execution of a program, okay. So remember that I told you that you need to have something here. So let me try as always using my drawings here. So a variable is something like this. Okay, okay. So variable, oh, here, variable is something that has a name. It is something that has a value, obviously, and it is something that has a type. Okay, this is something that I always say on my classes, in my classes. Okay, so but look at here, key points has a name, that is the identifier, has a data type, could be number, text, etc., and can be updated. What that means, that the value of, for example, the previous year, that was 2024, your age was about 14, maybe 15 years old. This year, 2025, the same variable now in you is between 15 and 16 years old. That means that the value changes. That is the part that says that can be updated. Okay, and there you have an example. Now, contrary to this, we have something that is constant. So what is a constant is obviously a space of memory, but its value doesn't change. So here we have an example in this slide, but I want to write it here. For example, if we are talking about maths, you have something that is called P, and you know that is 3.14, and always is going to say the same value, always. Another one, for example, the gravity is going to be always 9.8, always. And those are examples of constants, okay? Something that has a value obviously has a type, but its value never changes, okay? Variables versus constants. Features can change its value, yes, in variable, not in constants. Defined by, for example, if you are going to, let me give you an example. If you are going to make pseudocode and you want to declare or to create a variable, you are going to use the word declare. Okay, right? Let me come here. Okay, I don't have it here, but okay. In the variable, declare, for example, age, and it's going to be equals to 16. Okay, this is the way that you create variables using pseudocode. If you're talking about Python, you're going to say age equals to 16. Okay, or in pseudocode, age equals to 16. If you are going to talk about constants, In pseudocode, you're going to use the word const and the number, for example, p, and obviously its value. Okay, wait, its value 3.14. If we're talking about Python, you are going to use only p in capital sense equals to 3.14. Okay, okie dokie. These are examples about how are you going to use them. So real world examples, a scenario, for example, temperature, sensor temperature. You are going to measure the temperature and you know that is going to change. And for example, a constant. I'm going to give you an example here. Let's suppose that you are going to create a program that is going to control a cooler system. And let's suppose that, okay, the temperature is going to be measured by a sensor. So this value is going to be variable. Okay, comment what is happening in this moment. It's going to be variable. But let's suppose that you want to control your cooler system and you are going to turn your cooler system on when the temp arrives to the max temp that you want to control. So you are going to create a constant. So that means that you are going to do it like something like this, max temp, and you are going to use it here. And you are going to use, for example, 26 degrees. Okay. So this could be a constant because you are going to use it to control the temperature in a room, for example. Okay. And shopping app. So you are going to start buying some items, but for those items, you always are going to pay a tax. For example, here in Colombia, we have the IVA that is about the 16%. This value is going to be always the same, so that would be a constant. Okay. Game score is going to it's pretty similar. Okay, let's continue. What is data type? So here you need to remember that talking about data types means that you are going to work with some information or with some data. So you have something that is called text. Okay, in text we're talking about string, we are talking about numbers. In numbers, obviously, you have something that is called integer and another one that is called float or real. Real is in pseudocode, okay? And we have something that is called char. That means that you are going to work, for example, work only just one letter. You have, for example, date is another data type. You have another one that is called Boolean. Here we are talking about something that is true or something that is false. Okay, so let's continue. Let's start sharp, single letter, string, a sequence of characters, and Boolean. Okay, now what is something that we usually use in programming that is called input and output? So when we are talking about input, we are talking about something that the user is going to type using the keyboard, or could be something that is going to be input into a variable, for example, using a sensor. that is another input. So input, we are talking about the information that goes in a computer. And obviously we have the output, that is the information that is going to go out of the computer. Okay? Okie dokie. Not this one, but this one. Okay? So when you are going to use an input, is because you are going to ask for something in a program. And that information that you are going to ask is going to go inside the computer and is going to be processed by the computer, and the process result is going to be the output. That means give an answer. Okay. Or the computer is going to give an answer. Okay. Now, input, what it does, input gets information from the user, like typing on a keyboard. Example of pseudocode. So let's suppose that I'm going to do something like this. So pay attention, pay attention. Ah, here you have it. I don't need to write in this moment. So input gets information from the user. For example, this is the variable name that is going to be a user input. This is an example in pseudocode. This one. What happened with my mouse? This one. This is the user input, so that means that the user is going to write something on the keyboard, and this is done in Python. For example, name equals to input, enter your name. The message inside the quotes, it's shown to the user. Okay, so I hope you remember that. Now, output, what is that? Output is used for displaying information to the user, like showing text, showing numbers, showing results. For example, in pseudocode, you write output hello world. That means that on the screen is going to appear hello world. And you have the example um, in Python. Okay. Now, in the parts, in this part that you have here, is when you use both the input and output. So you are getting a name. So the user is going to write, for example, David, and the output is going to say, welcome, David. Okay. Okie dokie. So what is a sequence? A sequence is just the way that you write something. For example, let's suppose here we're going to write x equals to 5. We are going to use y equals to user input. Then we are going to use another one. I'm going to use r equals to 5 times y. Then I'm going to display r. If you notice here, when we are talking about sequence, that means that the algorithm or the program or the pseudocode is going to be executed from the first line, that is this one, to the other lines in this order. That is sequence, is the order in which a program is going to be executed. And always it starts in the line 1, then go to the line 2, then go to the line 3, then go to the line 4, and etc. Okay? Okie dokie. Selection. When we are talking about selection, that means that the code is going to be executed considering some conditions to make a decision. Okay, so here you have in this part we are going to talk about the if statements. So we have the if, we have a condition, then here we have the process that is going to be executed according with this condition. And if that condition is not true, we are going to have the else pattern of the else part. That means that here we are going to have another block of code that is going to be executed when this condition is not accomplished. Okay. And obviously at the end, we are going to have the end of. That is selection. So you are going to execute a block of code according with a condition. That is selection. Okay. We have another selection that is called case. Okay. So what that means. Okie dokie, let me explain you in this way. Okay, let's suppose that we are going to create a pseudocode in which, according with one color, you are going to make a decision. So, for example, I'm going to use this. I'm going to put light is going to be in green in this case. Let's suppose that we are going to use red to stop. Okay. Let's suppose that I'm going to use blue to be aware and green to move. It's a red light. Okay, semaphore. Okay. So we're going to start with the light equals to green. So here I am going to ask if, no, not with the if. We are going to do it in this way. Okay. So here I'm going to write case light, okay, off. So what is this? We are going to use the variable light to accomplish some decisions. So we are going to, for example, here, I'm going to use the word green. Okay. So here, we're going to send a message here, display, you move. We are going to have another case. So that means when if, for example, light is equals to blue, display, for example, get ready. And the other one is red, display, stop. And here we have 10 case, right? Okay, what happened here? In this moment, let me try to use this one. Okay, let's suppose that here we are here. Okay. Oh, sorry. We are here. Okay. So the value of light is green. So you're going to go to the switch case and the case statement is going to verify if the value of light is green, blue, and red. If in this case, the value of light is green, so this one is the option that is going to be displayed on the screen. Okay, that is case. What is another selection? In Python works so different. I'm going to explain you the same here. If you we have, for example, light equals to green. This is Python, right? And here we are going to use if light is equals to green, then here you're going to print a message that is going to say move, right? Else no. Now, do you remember elif? In elif, you are going to ask if light is equals to blue, then you are going to print, be aware, or get ready. And here another elif, and here we are going to ask if light is equals to red. And here we're going to print stop. So in Python, you don't have switch case that with this is what I was talking here. This is for pseudocode, but in Python is like this. Do you remember if and elif? Okay, remember when you use if else, if the result of any process is going to give you one of two possibilities. When you use if and elif is when you have more than two possibilities. Okay, so in pseudocode we use case. Okay. Okie dokie. So let's continue. Now, what is iteration? Iteration is just when you are going to start using loops. Okay. And remember that we have some different kind of loops here. So remember, a loops is something that you are going to repeat. And remember that you are going to use for, let me use this one, when you know how many times you need to repeat something. You are going to use while when you don't know how many times you need to repeat something. Okay. So try to remember that always. Okay. So here we have count control loop, also known as for. That means that you know how many times you need to repeat something. Then we have another one that is called precondition loop. The precondition loop is this one. For example, you write while. Here you have the condition. Then you have the operation that you are going to execute when the condition has finished. And the other one, this is precondition. The other one is post condition. When you have something like this, you have the repeat, you have all the process here, then you have the condition. So this one is precondition, this one is post condition. Okay? So let's continue here. This is the the post condition. Look at here. You can use here, while or until. Okay? Okay. Now, totally, totaling. Okay, this is too simple. Totaling, the example that I always use is, for example, when you are going to start buying something on the any shopping center. So you buy a pencil. Let's suppose that pencil costs 2,500. You are going to buy a Coca-Cola. And this one, I don't know, this one, and you are going to buy milk. And the milk, let's suppose this one. Totally is when you start making a total of this. So, for example, here is 20,500 pesos, right? Yes, that's correct. This is totally. The other one is counting. So you have one item, two items, three items. Okay, that is counting. And the other one is total. Okay, and here you have your example. Okay, counting. I already explained that. This one, string handling. That means that in this moment we are going to start handling strings. What is that about? I'm going to give you an example. Let's suppose that here I'm going to have this variable that I'm going to call name, and here I'm going to put this value to that variable. Okay? So this is a string, remember, this is a string. Okay? So let's continue with the explanation. We are going to use, for example, if I put length David, this one is going to return a value. Which value? Let me show you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the value that is going to be returned is 5. Why? Because using this, we are calculating the size of the, oh, sorry. Oh, man. It's pretty similar, but I'm using something wrong here. So length, name. And remember that the value of name in this moment is David. So the value that is going to be returned is 5. Why? Because David has 5 letters. Another one is substring. So let's suppose that I'm going to use substring. Okay. We're going to use substring, and I'm going to use the variable name. And now here I am going to put the number 1 and the number 3. So this function returns this. Tin, tin, tin. Why? Look at here. The name David. Here is our position number 0. This is our position number 1. This is our position number 2. This is the position number 3. And this is the position number 5. So I am saying with this substring, saying that I need only the letters from the position number 1 to the position number 3. That is the reason that if you notice the position number 1, 2, 3. So this is the result that we are going to have. Okay. Okay. But remember this. If you are using pseudocode, this changes. Why? Because in pseudocode, all the positions doesn't start in 0. In pseudocode, all the positions starts in 1. So I'm going to correct this here. So here I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means that the output is going to be DAF. Okay. The other one is upper. So let's suppose that now I'm going to use upper and the variable name, and look at how my name was wrote. So the output of this is going to be this, because you're changing the lower cases to upper cases. And now we have lower, the same name. Now the input is going to be like this, because you're changing everything to lower cases. Okay? Okie dokie. Let's continue. Now, indexing. This is what I was trying to explain in the previous pseudocode. In Python or Java, always the indexing is going to start in 1. In pseudocode is always going to start, sorry, in Python is always or start with 0, and in pseudocode in 1. What that means? That, for example, let's get back here. My name, David. Remember, this is a string. Okay. And when we talk about indexing is that you are going to use every single letter as a position in this string. Let's suppose that you have this in a list. I think you are going to understand a little bit better here. And here you have David. In pseudocode, this is the position number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In Python, this is the position number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. These numbers represent the position of every single letter that is called indexing. Let's suppose that you have a book. So let's suppose that this is a book, okay? And you have here something that is called index. And it says that the chapter number 3 is on the page 20. Something pretty similar to that, okay? That is indexing. Okay, so there you have samples. Now let's continue here and tune. Now, arithmetic operators. So what is an operator? Operator is something that you are going to start using just for doing something in programming. For example, when we talk about arithmetic, did I write it right? Yes. That means that you are going to use adding, you are going to use subtraction, you are going to use multiplication, you are going to use divisions, okay? But this one is going to be used using the power of in pseudocode. What that means? If you are going to use 2 by the power of 2, that means that the result is going to be 4. Elevar al cuadrado, okay? The other one is modulus. That is the one that you are going to use in this one, mod. That means that if you are going to have 4 mod 2, the answer of this is 0. Why? Because remember that modulus, this one, calculates the remainder. And the remainder of dividing 4 by 2 is 0. And the other one is diff. So you are doing a division. What is the difference between using this? I'm going to make this 5 divided by 2. And what is the difference doing 5 divided by 2? This result is going to be 2.5. And this result is going to be 2. That means that using div, you are going to have the integer part of the division result. Okay? Okie dokie. Let's continue. Now, we have something that is called logical operators. When do we use the logical operators is when you are going to make something that is selection, right? So, logical operators. Here, in pseudocode, you use equals. That means that you are going to compare something that you have here with something that you have here. You are going to ask, for example, if x is equals to 5 as a question. In pseudocode, in Python, you do it in this way, double equals. Okay? Why? Because in pseudocode, you use something like this. X is going to be equals to 5. That is the reason that you use the equals for comparison. And in Python, you use x equals to 5. So if you want to compare the numbers, you need to use double equals. Okay? Now, this one means not equals to. And I'm going to give you an example. 3 is not equals to 5. Okay? In Python, you use 3 is not equals to 5. Another one, you already know this. Less than, greater than, less and equals to, and greater and equals to, and in Python is the same. Okay? Okie dokie. Let's continue. Always when you are going to make this kind of comparisons, you have one of two results. For example, let's suppose that here I'm going to make x equals to 3, and I'm going to ask if x is equals to 5, then display something, and if this gives us result false. Why? Because x, the value of x is 3, and 3 is not equals to 5. That is the reason that here you have a false as result. But what if I want to try, well, okay, let me delete it, and now I'm going to do something different. Let's suppose x is going to be equals to 5, and I'm going to ask if x is equals to 5, then. So this one is going to return a value of 2. Why? Because 5 is equals to 5. Okay? So let's continue here. Boolean operators. Boolean operators. So here you are going to have, in programming, you are going to use and, you are going to use or, and you are going to use not. Okay? So in programming, I'm going to give you an example. Let's suppose that you have an x that is going to be equals to 5, y that is going to be equals to 6, and you are going to use another variable, and it's going to be a input user. And I'm going to ask, let me delete this. I'm going to ask if z is greater than y and z is less than x, then, and if. This is the way that you use the logical operators, this one. Or you can change the and for an or. Or you can use, for example, this one. If z is not, but this is pseudocode, is not equals to y. But remember, not equals is thinking. This is the way that you are going to use the logical operators. Okay, let's continue. Now, this is an example in which we have the age equals to 16, the height equals to 160, and we are asking if age is greater and equals than 18 and the height is greater or equals than 150, then output you can write the word cluster. Else output, sorry, not all of it. Okay, so this is the way that we use the Boolean operators in pseudocode. Okay, this is another example. Okay, and now this is something, this is not hard, but you need to be careful when you are going to use something that is called nested iterations. Okay, What is nested? Do you remember iteration? When we talk about iteration, we are talking about loops, always. Okay? Now, let's suppose that you are going to verify here, for example, do you remember the previous video when I talk about sorting data? That we are going to sort the numbers, let's suppose 5, 4, 1, and 2. We are going to sort them. So for sort this, we are going to make a nested interaction. So let me look for that presentation here. And it's not here, it's here, LCV, here, planning, 10th grade, resources, programming, and this one. What? Ah, it's not that one, is, oh man. Ah, I remember here in this one, algorithms. Ah, I was scared. Now let me come here, 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 here. Sorting this one, bubble sort. So yes, I'm going to try to use them so quickly for you. And let's suppose that here, if you notice here, we have a 4. This 4 is inside this another form from another 4. Okay. And in this explanation is that you are going to move from this position. Let me use a different color. I'm going to move this one and I'm going to start comparing this number with the other numbers. Okay. So the first 4 locate the color blue. Okay. Now the 4 inside the 4 puts here. And you start comparing, make the comparison with this 5 and with 4. When you end that comparison, that means that now we are going to move here. Then we are going to move here. Then we are going to move here and we are going to do the same. Then we are going to move here and then we are going to do the same and the same here. Okay, this is just one example about how to use nested for in this case. And here you have it. Okay, nested for loops. So you have a 4 here, and inside this 4, you're going to have another 4. And with both 4s, you are going to do something like this: output I and output J. And this is the output that you are going to have. Okay? Okie dokie. Here. Um, nested statements. Here, sorry. Here we have another nested statements. That means that you are going to have an if inside another if. So, for example, let's suppose that we have light 1 equals to blue. Then we are going to have the light 2 equals to red. So I'm going to ask if light 1 is equals to blue, then inside that if I'm going to ask once again if light 2 is equals to red. And obviously here we are going to complete the statements. So, and oh, sorry, this is Python, is not pseudocode. This is nested statements. In this case, we have an if inside another if. And in this example, we have if the temperature is greater than 13, then we are going to ask if the weather is sunny. Then we are going to send an output that says wear wear sunglasses and drink water. But this else is for this if. That means that the temperature is greater than 13, but the weather is not sunny. So the output is going to be just drink water. Okay. And if this and if is from this if, and this else is for this if. That means that if the temperature is not greater than 13, that means that the temperature is okay. That is nested uh, statement. In this case, if here is for nested iteration, that means for inside another form, for, sorry. And now, what is procedure and functions? Let me stop an alarm that is making a huge noise. Okay, I'm ready. Okie dokie. Now, what is procedures and functions? I know that I already explained this topic at school, but I'm going to do it once again here. Okay? So, oh, what is happening here? Something is missing here. Well, hmm. Oh, no, it's okay. So, what are procedures and functions? A procedure is a block of code that performs a task. A function is the same, but with a huge difference. The procedure doesn't return any result, but the function returns a result. So, if you notice here, function is a block of code that performs a task and remember that returns a result. So if you are going to create a function, you need to understand that is something that you are going to perform and must return a value. If you create a function but you don't return a value, that is called procedure. Okay, remember that always. Okay. Um, Real world analogy. A procedure is like telling a robot, clean the room. So the robot is just going to clean the room and is not going to say nothing to you. A function is like asking to the same robot, hey, Mr. Robot, what is the temperature? So the robot is going to measure the temperature, that is the task, and is going to give you a result. So that means that the robot is going to say the temperature is 24 degrees. So it's giving you a result. Okay. Now, what are parameters? Parameters are placeholders used to send values into a procedure or a function. Okay. I'm going to give you here. I think I have some examples here. Okay. Define and use procedures and functions with or without parameters. So we are going to start without parameters. That means, look at here. Here we are going to create a procedure. Okay. And if there is nothing between these brackets, that means that you are not sending parameters. Okay? So this is a procedure without parameters. And obviously here you can call your procedure using this. Okay? Now, a function without parameters. So you create a function. Remember, if you don't put nothing here, that means that you don't have parameters calling um, this function, and return this value. Okay? And remember this, if you notice here, you're just calling a procedure. But if you are going to call a function, you need to do it using a variable. Why? Because this function is going to return this value. That means that this variable is going to get this value. Okay? Always, if you are going to call a function, call it always using a variable in this way. Okay? Next one. Function with parameters. That means that you are going to send some, or you are going to just send something between the parentheses. That means that here you are calling a function that is called add, and you're sending the number a and the number b. Inside the function, you are going to add them, and you are going to return the result of that adding, and you call it like this. So sum is going to be equals to the function, and you are sending the number 5, and you are sending the number 10. That means that here sum is equals to 15. Okay? Okie dokie. Next one. What is a variable? Oh, we already talked about that. A variable is like a box that stores a value. Okay? And remember, you can have, if you are using procedures and functions, you need to remember that we now need to start talking about local variables and global variables. What a local variable means. You have a procedure or a function, and you create a variable. In this opportunity, in this procedure, you are creating a variable called name, and you are giving a value Alice to that variable inside a procedure. That means local variable. Okay? That means that name exists only inside the function that we call say hello. Now, global variable. Global variable is when you create a variable outside any function, like this example. The name is going to be equals to Alice. This is a global variable. And that variable, you can use it in a procedure. Okay? It's not necessary that you send the parameters in this part. Okay? So name can be accessed for anywhere in the program. Okay, let's continue. We are in the half of the presentation. We have 64 slides. We are in the slide number 34. So we are missing 30 slides. Now, local variable, quick comparison. Feature, scope. Scope means la visibilidad de la variable. As local variable, you can access to that variable just inside the subroutine or procedure or function. Okay? A global variable, you can access to it in the entire program. When you need to create a local variable, when subroutine starts. And when you can create a global variable, when the program starts. Local variable is more efficient, okay? Because you are going to use just that variable just in that part of the program. But if you use global variables, you are going to use more memory. Okay, is safer? Yes, yes. Local variable is more is safer than a global variable. Okay, so here is why this matter. Okay, so if you want to change to use local variables, it's going to help you to unwanted changes. That means that possibly you are going to change a variable's value in a part of the code that you don't need to change it. Okay, so that is the reason that we use local variables. Okay, and when to use global variables? When you need to use one information or one data that is going to be used in different procedures and functions. Now, what is library or routines? A library routine is a built-in function or procedure provided by the programming language. I want to give you an example. Do you remember previous year when we start creating a program that is going to guess any number? Do you remember the function random? This is something that you need to use when you are going to do it, when you are going to create random numbers. Okay, do you remember that in Python you need to put import random? Okay, yes, do you remember that? Okie dokie. So that is used when you are going to perform common tasks without having to write the code yourself. So you don't need to invent a code to select numbers randomly. So you need to go to this library, you call that library. So the entire code inside random you is going to be useful for you. Okay. So you don't need to start creating a code to select random numbers because it's already created. So you don't need to create it again. Another common, or this one is another common library routines, modulus. That is to calculate the remainder after a division. Diff. Diff is another one, common library routines, when you need to calculate just the integer in a division. I gave you the example some moments ago. You are going to divide 5 div 2. The result of this is going to be 2, the integer part in a division. Okay. Round is when you need to round a number. So there you have the examples. Okay. Random, I already explained this. Okay. So why library routines matter? Because saves you time, improves accuracy, and make the programs shorter and easy to read. Okay. What does maintainable mean? Look at the big title. Understand how to create a maintainable program. What that means in Spanish. Eso quiere decir que ustedes van a crear un programa que se le puede dar un mantenimiento de forma fácil. Va a ser fácil de leer, de entender, de actualizar, de depurar y de mejorar. Okay? So, what are you going to do to create a maintainable program? So, please, this is something that I tell you always. If you are going to create a variable, that the identifier of or the name of the variable tells you what are you going to do with that variable. For example, if I am going to make a counter, it's easier for me that the variable has this number than, for example, this number. So with this, the purpose could be any purpose. With this, I know that that variable is going to be used as counter. If I use another that is going to be called total, I know that this one is going to be used for totaling. And this one, hmm, no idea. Okay, let's continue. Here you have samples. Examples for bad names and example for good names. Okay, let's continue. Comments. The comments are used to explain some parts of the code. For example, here, let's suppose that here we are going to create a procedure here. Here we are going to create a procedure. This procedure is going to be called calculate rate. And here, here, in this part, we are going to, using comments, we're going to say what is the use of that procedure. So wait a moment once again. Okay, that is the way that we use something that is called comments. Okay, so with the comments, we are going to explain what is the use of a variable, what is the use of a function, on what is going to be the use of a procedure like this example. Okay, use procedures and functions. If you do you remember this presentation? This one, no, this one when we start talking about this one, wait, the problem decomposition. That means that if you want to break in down a problem to a small problem, is when you are going to start using procedures and functions. That means that you are going to break your code into small reusable blocks. Okay, use procedures for actions and use functions when you want to return a value. Okay, so please, when you are going to create a program, use procedures and functions. It's going to be easier for another person to understand what you are doing. Okay, and comments the syntax properly. That means that you not only are going to explain the use of accentuation. In this example, we are going to check if the user is old enough to register. And here, for example, you are going to start coding the process of the registration. Okay. So use the comments to specify everything that you are doing and what is your intention for doing that part of the code. Okay. Next one. Okie dokie. For explaining this, I'm going to use Excel. Okay. What is an array? Let's see first the explanation. But now I think that I have to close this one. What is an array? An array is a collection of variables stored under one name, where each variable called an element can be accessed using an index. So let me explain this. I'm going to explain one deep array. Let's suppose that in this array, I'm going to use the name numbers. And here we have the numbers 5, 8, 3, 9, 2, 10, 12. Okay. And this is my array. Well, let me take this out. Okay, this is my array. This is the name of the array. And this is the values inside the array. Right? Right. And this part what that it says that can be accessed using an index. So remember, if you are talking about here, I'm going to put pseudocode, and here, for example, Python. The index are going to be the position of the numbers. So the number 5 is in the position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And in Python is the position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Please remember that. Okay? Okay, 1D arrays, one-dimensional arrays. This is the example. Okay? And for example, this is the way that you declare an array. So here you are saying that you are going to declare an array that is called scores. So I'm going to put here scores as integer. That means that all the numbers inside that array are going to be integers. In the position number 0, this one has a 9, 90, 90, 85, 78, 92, and 88. And I'm going to delete this one. Okay, this is the array that we have here with its respective values. Okay, now if you want to show the values inside the array, you use a loop doing this. So look at that this array has 4 positions. 5, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we start in 0, look at, and we end in 4, look at. And we're going to output scores in the position E. So E is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So at the end, we are going to have this information as an output. Okay? Okie dokie. Now, arrays allow programs to store multiple values in the same data type under one variable name and access them using an index. Okay? So remember, most programming starts here in 0. In pseudocode, you always start in 1. Okay, so you need to be careful in this part. Okay, example number 1 of one-dimensional array with variable index. Okay, so let's suppose that here you are going to ask to the user to type a number between 0 and 4. Let's suppose that the user types 2. So that means that the number here 2. So the score that is going to be displayed is the number 74. Okay? Okie dokie. This is the example number 2. But in this one is using loops. So I already explained, so I hope this part is clear for you. The next one is two-dimensional arrays with variables as indexes. Okay? So let's get back here. Okay? So let's suppose, let me try to explain you with no. Okay, I explain you with this with another example. So let me come here and I'm going to use this. That means that we are going to have 2 columns and 3 rows. Okay, 2 columns, 3 rows, something like this. So 0, 0 means that here we are going to have 90. 0, 1 means that here we are going to have 85, 78, 88, 92, 81. Okay, so this is the position 0, 1, 2, and this is the position 0, 1. Okay, it's kind of matrix, una matriz. That is the reason that I'm using Excel, because I think it's going to be easier for me to explain and easier for you to understand. Okay? Okie dokie. And look at that. For moving across this two-dimensional array, we need to use nested iteration. So 1, 4, this first 4 is going to move, I think, this is like here. Ting, 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 ting. 1, 4 is going to move here. When it ends, it's going to move here, then to move here. And when it ends, let me try to put in color. So it's going to start here, then here. This is the 4 inside the 4. This one, here. This one is going to move here. Then is going to move here. So that means that it's going to came to this 4 again. So it's going to move across that 4, then is going to use the other 4 and is going to move like this. This is the way that we move in a two-dimensional arrays. This is a little bit harder, so please bring me question about this. Next one, arrays and loops iteration work hand in hand. Okay, if you are going to move in a single loop, in a single array, so like this one, you need just one loop. But if you are going to move in a two-dimensional array, you need two fors. Okay? Okay. This is one-dimensional array example. For example, you are going to write values in the array. So you are going to declare the array called numbers. The size of that array is going to be 5, and you are going to use that array for numbers. So you are going to use 1, 4 to put numbers inside the array. Okay? If you want to read information, this is just for writing. This is for read. Look at that here. You use input, and here you use output. That means that here this array is going to be used to show the values that we insert here or write here. Okay. This one, two-dimensional array example, nested interaction, writing values into a 2D or two-dimensional arrays. Okay. So here we have the array declare. This is going to be a table in which we're going to use 3 spaces by 2 spaces, something like could be like this, 3 by 2. Okay, in this way. Okay, so for row 0 to 2, so we are going to start here. Row, columns. Okay, so we are going to start here, this one, and we are going to start, let's suppose that now we get inside the second 4, that is for the columns. So we are going to put a value in the table 0, 0. Let's suppose that here we are going to write 15. Next, we are going to put another number here. Then we are going to put another number here. This is done with this 4. Now we get outside the first 4. Now we get in this 4 again. So we are going to be here. We are going now in the number 1, for example. Okay. Then we are going to do the same. Okay. This is the way that we fill an array up. Okay. This is the way that we are going to read it. Here we write information inside. Here we read information from the two-dimensional array. Okay? Okie dokie. Now, we are going to talk about files. For example, this is an Excel file, but I'm going to close it. So this is something that I noticed that some of you answer properly in the first mock that you present in this first term. So what is a file in programming? A file is a place where data can be permanently stored on a device. So it doesn't disappear when the program ends or the computer is turned off. Why store data in a file? Persistence. That means that the data is going to remain safe after the program. Data remains saved after the program ends. Reuse. That means that the program can load existing data without asking the user to enter the information again. Analysis. Data can be read from files for analysis, reports, etc. Data sharing. Files can be shared across programs or systems or people. And handling large data. It's easier to store and process large amount of data outside of RAM. Okay. Now, an example of scenario. Imagine you are creating a student management system. You want to save names and grades of students. Load them again next time you run the program. Without a file, all data is lost when the program ends. With a file, the data is safe and can be loaded again later. This is an example. We are going to open a file that is called student.txt for write. That means that we are going to write inside that file. Okay, so we are going to write Lucas and this score 89. Then we are going to close this file. That's too simple. Too simple. Simple. Whatever. Now, types of operation. You can open the file, you can read the file, you can write the file, and obviously you can close the files. Okay. Next. Why do we open and close files? Before you can use a files, you need to open it. When you're finished, you should close it. Why you close it? Because you need to save the information, free up system resources, and avoid data corruption. So the operations that you can use with files, open it to access a file to read or write it. Read for getting information from the file. Write to add or update data in the file. And close because you're finishing up using the file. Okay? So if you want to read a single line, you are going to open the file for read. Look at that here, you open the file for write. That means that here you are going to write information and here you are going to read information. So you are going to read the name and you are going to read the age, then you are going to close the file. Now, read a line. This is just for reading a single item. You are going to read the name, you are going to read the age. If you want to read a complete line, you are going to obviously open the file for read. You are going to say read line, the sentence, and you are going to close the data. Okay? And at the end of this video presentation, you can write to a file. Okay, so you are going to open the file for writing, write the name, write the age, and close the file. Okay, if you want to write a full line, you are going to open data file for write, and you are going to write line, and this is the line that you are going to write in the file. Then you are going to close the data. Okay, but what happens if I'm going to give you an example. Let's suppose that you have a file called, I don't know. Let me open this and let me share this with you. Let's suppose that we have a file. This is a file, and this file is called students.txt. You open it for writing. That means that you are going to write in this file. And here you write David, and let's suppose 37. Then I close the file. Then I am going to open it once again, this file for write. And now I am going to write Andres and 87. What happened here? The previous information that I wrote was deleted with the new information. How can we avoid this issue? Opening the file for append. This for append. That means that you are going to add information to the file. That means that if I open once again this file, but not for writing, but for append, that means that now I am going to write David 37. Okay, so remember that append is used for adding information. Okay, if you just open it for writing, you are going to delete the previous information and the information is going to be updated. Okay, so be careful with that. Okay, guys, I try to be. No, I thought that this video was too short, but not. Oh man, but okay, doesn't matter. Guys, I really want you to have a great score in your IGCSE. Please bring me questions, please. Okay, so this is all for this video. So thank you for watching this video. So let's see you in another video. We are missing just two videos, just two. One is about databases. So let me see how long could be that video. So databases, sorry. Okay, this one, databases. Oh, this video is gonna be too short, this one. Okay, and the last video is going to be about Boolean logic, and I think this video is going to be short too. Okay, so let's meet in another video. So bye bye.